In this video, we learn how to multiply and divide fractions by each other. So for example, 2 over 3 times 1 over 6. Now to multiply fractions, you would just multiply the numbers straight across. So you do 2 times 1, and then you do 3 times 6. So that would become 2 times 1 over 3 times 6, which is 2 over 18. And then you simply check if this can be simplified. So that can be simplified to give 1 over 9. Now there is a simpler way of doing it when the numbers have a common factor in the numerator and the denominator. So for this example, I can see that 2 and 6 have a common factor of 2. So you can just cancel out the common factor. So 2 divided by 2 becomes 1, and 6 divided by 2 becomes 3. So that becomes 1 over 3 times 1 over 3. And then you just multiply across as before. So that becomes 1 times 1, which is 1, and then 3 times 3, which is 9. So you get the same answer as before. Okay, let's try simplifying these fractions. 5 over 8 times 8 over 25, and 5 over 6 times 3 over 4. So we can see that there's an 8 in the numerator and the denominator, so we can simply cancel out the 8s. And then we can see that there's a common factor of 5 for these numbers. So we can simply divide both numbers by 5. That would become 1, and that would become 5. So the whole fraction simplifies to 1 over 5. For this example, we can see that 3 and 6 have a common factor of 3. So you can cancel out the common factor, and that would become 1 over 2. And then you would simplify the fraction by multiplying straight across. So 5 times 1 is 5, and 2 times 4 is 8. So this becomes 5 over 8. And since there aren't any common factors, that would be the simplest form. Now, to divide fractions, it's very similar to multiplication, except there's an extra step at the start. So for example, 7 over 10 divided by 3 over 5. To start simplifying this, you would change that to a times symbol, and then you would flip the second fraction. So that becomes 7 over 10 times 5 over 3. And then you would simplify this as before. So I can see there's a common factor of 5 between these numbers. So that becomes 1 over 2. And then that would become 7 times 1, which is 7, divided by 2 times 3, which is 6. So the answer is 7 over 6. Let's do a couple more examples. So 2 over 9 divided by 1 over 6. and 3/10 divided by 4/5. So for the first one, I can see a common factor of 2 for these numbers. So that becomes 1/3. And then you just multiply across as usual. Sorry, I forgot to change that to a times. Silly me. Okay, so we start by changing that to a times, and then we flip the second fraction. So that becomes 2/9 times 6/1. And then you cancel any common factors. So I can see a common factor of 3 for these numbers. So that becomes 2/3. And then you multiply straight across. So 2 times 2 is 4. 3 times 1 is 3. And since there aren't any common factors, that would be the simplest form. Now, for this example, we start by changing it to a times problem. So we change the symbol to a times, and then we flip the second fraction. And then we cancel any common factors. So I can see there's a common factor of 5. So that becomes 1/2. And then we just multiply straight across. So 3 times 1 is 3. 2 times 4 is 6. Sorry, 2 times 4 is 8. So that becomes 3/8. And since there aren't any common factors, that would be the simplest form.